Hey there, if you're studying for the LOTE 613 exam, stop making flashcards. The test doesn't care if you can define a certain vocabulary word, it cares if you can identify a student's struggle in 60 seconds in a scenario and select the right intervention. Today, we're using Bloom's taxonomy to master the pedagogy. We aren't just recording, we're analyzing, applying, and creating. So, you are here because you need to pass a test that measures your judgment, not just your memory. Today, we aren't just reviewing theory, we're practicing the application of pedagogy. If you want to pass the test, you need to think like a teacher in real time. So, on that note, I am going to present 5 layers of challenges. You will respond to the challenges. If you aren't talking out loud to me, you aren't studying. So when you see the pause sign, you must speak your answer out loud. Ready? You will have to answer questions about this, so please pay attention. Ever notice how one student thrives in a loud debate while another goes silent into drawing a diagram? That's not good or bad learning, that's multiple intelligence in action. For LOTE exam, if you only think about one way to teach, you're missing the point. Today, we're breaking down 9 types of smarts so you can spot them in your students and adapt your instruction on the fly. So, Gardner proposed that we don't have one single intelligence but 9. Think of these as your pedagogical toolbox. You don't need to use every tool every day, but you need to know which one to pull out when a student is stuck. Let's look at the first group, the analytical and creative learners. Let's start with word smart. Word smart kids, good with meanings. They need debates and journaling. Logic smart, good with patterns. They need data, charts, and puzzles. Music smart, good with rhythm. They need chants and songs to memorize vocabulary. Picture smart, think in images. They need mind maps and color coding and illustrations. Next, we have the learners who need to engage with the world. We have the body smart, they need to move. If they're stuck, stop the lecture and start role play. Nature smart, they need the environment, plants, weather, ecosystems. People smart, they thrive on social connection, group work, and peer teaching. Self smart, they need reflection, independent projects, and personal goal settings. And finally, the big questions smart or existential. These students are your why thinkers. They just don't want to know grammar rules. They want to know the purpose and ethics behind language. This is where your advanced students live. The main idea here you need for your test is this. You cannot hit all 9 every single day. That's a recipe for burnout. But you can rotate your activity so that over the course of a week, every student feels seen. Elizabeth, this part's for you, so listen up. Here's your first challenge. How do you distinguish interpersonal from interpersonal intelligence? And why do you need both to survive a team project? You see the pause sign? Please speak out loud. Please speak your answer out loud. So pause the video now. Read the question again and pause the video. I hope you answered to yourself the question, how do you distinguish interpersonal from interpersonal intelligence, and why do you need both to survive in a team project? Here's the analysis. Interpersonal, this is your ability to read the room, how you sense the moods, feelings, and the needs of people around you. Intrapersonal, this is your ability to look at yourself, how you recognize your own emotions, reactions, and what sets you off. Basically, one checks how the other people are doing, the other checks how you are doing inside yourself. Interpersonal is about noticing the energy in the room, and intrapersonal is about noticing the weather inside your own head so you can keep your cool when things get chaotic. Here's another question. I'm observing a classroom. Student A is coordinating a massive fundraiser. Student B is sketching a map of imaginary world. Student C is using a screwdriver to fix a loose latch. Identify the smart for each student and explain why. Remember, pause the video so you can answer out loud for yourself, and then come back and I will let you know the answer. I hope you said your answer out loud. So here's the analysis. Student A is the organizer, which is people smart, networking. Student B is the map maker, picture smart, spatial translation. And student C is the latch fixer, body smart, tactile problem solving. Next question. You're teaching software. Your student is bored with the manual. They're highly they're highly musical and kinesthetic. You have 60 seconds. What is your intervention? Talk it out loud. Pause the video for 60 seconds. Okay, the analysis. For the kinesthetic learner, get the mouse in their hand immediately to build muscle memory. For the musical learner, build a rhythmic mnemonic for the steps. They need to feel and hear the process, not just read it. Here's another question. Let's analyze the intersection of nature and existential intelligence. If we are studying climate change, how do these two smarts overlap? Remember, pause the video and say your thoughts out loud, please. Welcome back. Here's the analysis. The naturalist focuses on the evidence, the melting the ice and soil data. The existential focuses on the implication, our moral responsibility to protect the planet. Great teachers use nature smart data to trigger existential smart discussions. Here's another one for you. We're teaching photosynthesis. Your final task. How can we use the just regular lesson plan approach to engage at least 5 different smarts in a 60-minute block? Pause the video and talk it out loud. Welcome back. Let's look at the analysis. So, the very first one, el misterio. Muestra una semilla a la maestra y un tronco gigante. La pregunta, ¿de dónde viene toda esta masa si la planta solo consume agua? Esto es existencial. El por qué. Parte 2, el diagrama. Dibuja el proceso usando colores vivos y símbolos en la pizarra. Esto es visual espacial. 3. La fábrica de oxígeno. Los alumnos representan roles. Unos son moléculas entrando a una hoja, un círculo de escritorios. Otros son fotones que los etiquetan para convertirlos en azúcar. Esto es kinestesia y interpersonal. El otro, caminata al jardín. Salir a buscar diferentes hojas y discutir cuáles están absorbiendo más luz solar según su superficie. Esto es naturalista. Next one, reporte de laboratorio. Escribir una carta de una hoja al sol, agradeciéndole por la energía recibida. Esto es verbal lingüística. You just didn't watch this video. You analyzed, evaluated, and created. This is how you master the LOTE pedagogy. Which of these 5 layers do you need to practice more? Please let me know in the comments. Moving on. Let's talk about language acquisition now. Babies versus the classroom. Ever wonder why learning a second language in school feels so different from how you learn to speak as a baby? It's because the stages are completely different. Let's break it down. Section 1. First language. How the baby learns of his first language. First, our native language. We all start here. So, from 0 to 10 months, the babbling stage. It's all about cooing, crying, and turning into those familiar voices. By your 11 or 18 months, the one-word stage, that's one word, like milk, carries the weight of a full sentence. When the baby is 18 months, up to 6 years, this is the telegraphic stage. We start stringing ideas together, like mommy, go, car. It's short, simple, and functional. When the little kid is 7 years and up, this is school age. This is where the magic of complex grammar and social rules kick in. Now, let's look at the section 2, second language. This is the classroom path. But learning a second language as a student, that's a whole new process. Ojo, this is language acquisition. Students absorb Spanish naturally, not memorizing grammar and not teacher-led lectures. They learn from storytelling, games, and song. Also, you need to remember as a teacher that mistakes are part of the process when they're going through these stages. So let's start. It takes 0 to 6 months in class to reach the pre-production stage, also known as the silent stage. This is when the student is listening and using gestures. Teachers, your job, you use pictures, point, and keep it slow. Second stage, it takes 6 months up to 1 year in Spanish class to get to the early production stage. Now, the student is saying yes, no, or choosing between options. Keep it simple and ask who, what, and where. Next stage, it takes up to 1 to 3 years for the student to get to the speech emergence level. Speech emergence level is phrases and simple sentences to start to appear for the student. Now, teachers, prompt them with why and how. Use songs and stories to build confidence. Now, it takes 3 to 5 years in class to get to the intermediate fluency. This is sentences where sentences get longer, errors decrease, and writing takes off. This is the time to ask for opinions and dive into content. Now, the last stage. It takes up 5 to 7+ years to reach advanced fluency. You're nearly native. At this point, the focus shifts from just learning the language to actually learning subjects in that language. Ojo, again, I repeat, it takes at least 5 years to learn Spanish at school. The teacher can accept different ways of responding depending on what level each student is. Ever feel like your students are hitting a wall? Whether you're teaching a toddler their first words or an adult their second language, the journey is random. The journey isn't random, it's a process. First, let's clear the air. People often confuse a toddler's telegraphic speech with a student's early production, but there's massive difference. It's called cognitive maturity. The toddler doesn't have the hardware for complex grammar yet. The student does. They just lack the data. And what about the silent period or pre-production? Don't force speech here. The brain is busy building a comprehension map. Forcing it just builds an effective filter, basically stress that shuts down learning. You know that memorizing definitions isn't enough. You need pedagogical judgment. This is not a lecture, it's an interactive workshop. I'm going to throw 5 layers of challenges at you. When you see the timer, you must say your answer out loud. If you're just thinking it, you're not practicing. Let's go. Question: what is the fundamental difference between a toddler in the telegraphic stage and an adult in the early production? Pause the video, speak your answer out loud. Okay, I hope you said your answer out loud. Here's the analysis. If you said age, you're only half right. It's cognitive maturity. Cognitive maturity is simply the ability to think like a responsible, effective adult. As you see, the toddler's brain is still building its grammar frameworks. And as you can see, the adult learner already has framework. They just need the new data, the vocabulary, and syntax to plug it in. How does the role of a teacher shift as a student moves from intermediate fluency to advanced fluency? Pause the video. If you don't say it out loud, you don't own it yet. Okay, welcome back. And let's think about this. The teacher shift. In intermediate, the teacher is a language coach, fixing errors, expanding vocabulary. In advanced, the teacher becomes the content mentor. The focus shifts from how to say it to what is being said. For example, discussing the ethics of a novel rather than just its verb tenses. Next question. Identify which stage a student is in if they can understand a complex lecture on history, but still makes occasional grammatical mistakes when writing an essay. Pause the video so you can think out loud. Okay, the answer. This student is in intermediate fluency. 3 to 5 years of learning Spanish. They have the cognitive, academic, language proficiency to handle complex input, but their output hasn't yet caught up to their native level perfection of advanced fluency. Now, a child points at a dog and shouts, "Doggy," while a teenager in Spanish class points at a dog and says, "Perro." Which specific stages are these two individuals? Pause the video. Okay, I hope you say your answer out loud because this is how we're learning. The answer, doggy versus perro. The child is in the one stage, L1. The teenager is in early production, L2, second language, learning. Especially, specifically, the short answer or naming phrase. A student is in pre-production and hasn't said a word in 3 weeks. Why is the silent period actually a productive state of the brain? And why is forcing them to speak a mistake? Pause the video so you have time to think and answer. I hope you read the notes and pictures. I'm trying to help you here. So the answer is they aren't lazy. They are massive intake mode. They're mapping forms and rhythms. If you force speech here, you trigger the affective filter. You spike their anxiety, and when stress goes up, their brain input valve shuts down. Let them listen. Next question. If you have a student in pre production silent stage, you need to know if they understand, but they won't talk. How do you assess them without forcing speech? Pause the video so you can think out loud. I hope you read the notes and saw the picture. Your response is total physical response, TPR. Give multi step commands like this: point to the protagonist, draw the setting, move the red block. If they can follow the action, they are processing the language. You have your data without the anxiety. If you have a student in the speech emergence stage who is frustrated because they can't express why they feel a certain way, what specific tools or prompts would you give them? Pause the video. If you don't say it out loud, you don't own it yet. The solution: provide sentence frames. If they can't find the words, give them a scaffold, aka help. So the sentence frames can look like this: I feel frustrated because option A or option B. Or here's another way: I feel this way since. This reduces the cognitive load of building the sentence so they can focus on the meaning. Moving on, the mystery box. I have students in pre-production, speech emergence, and intermediate fluency. I hold up a box. Give me one prompt for each stage to keep them all engaged at once. Pause the video, look at the pictures, and look at the notes, and figure it out. Yes, you are correct. Pre-production. You point to the box. Speech emergence. They say it is heavy. Intermediate level. It would be like this. Why do you think it's heavy? Next question. If a student says, I go store now, are they likely in the telegraphic stage of their first language or early production of their second language? Explain your reasoning. Pause the video so you can think out loud. Welcome back. The answer. I go store now is likely early production in a second language. Why? Because now is an adverb used to clarify intent, a strategy older learners use to compensate for missing tenses, like will go. A toddler in the telegraphic stage usually sticks to mommy store or go store. Next, imagine a 3-year-old child and a 30-year-old adult are both starting to learn Spanish. Using the stages provided, how might their one word or early production stages look different in social settings? Pause the video, look at the pictures, and use the notes. Alrighty, the answer 3-year-old versus 30-year-old. The 3-year-old will be fearless and physical, likely shouting, Hola, while grabbing a toy. The 30-year-old will be strategic and inhibited, likely using hola as a polite social lubricant while feeling much more intentional. Internal pressure, not just to sound silly. Next, why do you think it takes significantly 5 to 7 years to reach advanced fluency compared to the relatively quick jump from pre-production to early production? Pause the video, please respond out loud. I hope the notes helped you. The 5 to 7 year gap, going from zero to some, in other words, pre production to early, is a high growth phase where every new word is 100% increase in ability. Going from intermediate to advanced requires mastering idioms, sarcasm, cultural nonsenses, academic jargon. It's the difference between surviving a conversation and owning a debate. Next question. Compare the school age, which is 7+ years, of a first language intermediate fluency in a second language. What unique challenges does a second language learner face that a native speaker child does not? Pause the video, answer out loud so you can learn this information. The answer? The second language learner faces interference. Their first language is constantly trying to help by applying its own grammar rules to new language. For example, a Spanish speaker saying the car blue instead of the blue car. Critique the silent period or pre-production. Some argue that students should be forced to speak immediately to learn faster. Based on the stages provided, why might that approach be counterproductive? Pause the video. If you don't say it out loud, you don't own it yet. Okay, as you can see on the notes in the picture, critique of forced speech. Forcing speech too early creates anxiety. According to the affective filter, when a student is stressed, the brain's input valve closes. They might mimic sounds, but they won't acquire the language deeply. Next, design a 5-minute activity for a classroom that contains students in pre-production, speech emergence, and intermediate fluency all at once. How do you ensure everyone participates? Pause the video so you can think out loud. Okay, welcome back. I hope you got your answer by looking at the pictures in the notes, and I hope it helped. The mystery box, the setup. Hold up a box. Pre-production, you ask, is it big or small? They point to the size, card, or nod. Now moving on to the speech emergence. You ask, what color is it? They say, it is blue. Now the intermediate part, you ask, why do you think it's heavy? They explain, maybe there are rocks inside because it makes a loud sound. Got it? Moving on, create a progress map for a student. If they are currently in early production, what 3 specific milestones should they hit to prove they have moved into speech emergence? Pause the video and use the notes. Okay, welcome back. Moving to speech emergence. Milestone number 1. The student initiates a conversation rather than just responding. Milestone 2. The student uses 3 word strings, subject plus verb plus object. And milestone 3. The student uses and or because to connect two simple thoughts. Write a short dialogue between a teacher and a student in the telegraphic stage. Then rewrite the same dialogue as if the student has reached advanced fluency. Pause the video so you can answer out loud. Okay, welcome back. The telegraphic, aka toddler. So the teacher says, what do you want to play with? And the student says, truck, blue truck. That's the telegraphic stage. Now let's do the advanced fluency and the second language learner. Teacher says, which activity should we start with today? Student says, I prefer to work with the building blocks, especially the blue trucks, because I want to finish the bridge we started yesterday. Moving on to something new, ACTFL proficiency levels. What can students do? Stop thinking about language in terms of grammar quizzes. Think in terms of can-do checklist. The ACTFL proficiency levels aren't just labels. They are a roadmap of what you can actually do in real world. Today, we're leveling up. Let's break down the tiers of mastery. We start at novice. Okay, low, novice low. You got the basics, single words, isolated phrases. Novice mid, you can handle simple survival questions. Novice high, you're building simple sentences. Pause the video if you don't say this out loud, you don't own it. What is your answer? Here's the question. If you're a novice high, can you talk about your favorite food and why you like it? Go. Okay. To reach novice high, you must expand your response. You need to connect your thoughts to explain why or what you mean. Novice low mid is do you like pizza? Yes. Novice high is do you like pizza? Yes, I like pizza. It's my favorite food because it's delicious. By adding that extra sentence to explain your reasoning, you demonstrate that you are successfully building the simple sentences required for this level. Level 2, intermediate. Now we hit the intermediate. This is the conversation zone. I repeat, this is the conversation zone. We have intermediate low. You can handle simple social exchanges. Intermediate mid, you're swapping info and giving basic advice. And intermediate high, this is the breakthrough. You can finally connect sentences and talk about the past, present, and future. Ojo, these students in intermediate high, they struggle to keep the past tense consistent. Here's the question, the challenge. You're at intermediate high. Tell me what you did yesterday and what you're planning for tomorrow. Tell me out loud. Pause the video. Okay, welcome back. You're at intermediate high. Tell me what you did yesterday and what you're planning for tomorrow. I hope you got it. Advanced, the professional level. The advanced, you aren't just surviving, you're explaining. I need you to remember that. So we have advanced low, you can compare, explain, and troubleshoot unexpected problems. Again, advanced low, you can compare and explain and handle unexpected problems. High, intermediate, advanced high, you're discussing abstract concepts and using industry specific vocabulary. The challenge says you're advanced high. Explain why your favorite book or movie is culturally significant. Pause the video. Go. Okay, welcome back. I hope you were able to discuss this abstract concept in Spanish. Let's talk about the superior and distinguished. The peak. Superior, you're arguing, persuading, and tackling complex topics fluently. Distinguished, the highest of the highest. You're a diplomat. You tailor your tone to your audience and navigate social subtleties that even native speakers miss. Here's your challenge. What would it take for you to persuade someone of a difficult viewpoint in your target language? Okay, I hope you got your answer. Superior. You can argue why the theory behind the project was flawed and offer a better abstract alternative. The distinguished level, You can convince your boss without ever criticizing them directly that the project was ahead of its time while securing the budget for your new, better idea. Next question. What is the specific linguistic breakthrough that allows a student to move from novice level to intermediate level? Please read the notes and figure this answer out by yourself. Pause the video. Alrighty, let's look at the answer. The shift from novice to intermediate is the transition from the parrot to the creator. The novice is like a parrot because they are just mimicking what another person says. An intermediate, well, you create new sentences and questions. Novices rely on memorized chunks and phrases they heard before. Intermediates begin to create with language, combining words in new ways to express personal meaning. Next question. How does the ability to talk across time frames distinguish an intermediate high speaker from an intermediate mid speaker? Use your notes, pause the video, and say your answer out loud. Your answer? Time frames. An intermediate mid speaker is often stuck in the now. They can tell you what they're doing. An intermediate high speaker can narrate a story, successfully weaving together the past, present, and future without the conversation falling apart. Next, in your own words, define what it means for a distinguished speaker to tailor language to an audience. Why is this considered the highest level? Pause the video and please say this aloud. This is for you to learn. I hope the notes helped you. Tailoring language. A distinguished speaker is a linguistic chameleon. They know how to speak to a toddler, they know how to speak to a CEO and a judge using different tones, different vocabularies, and different cultural nonsenses. This is the highest level because it requires not just linguistic skill, but deep cultural and psychological intelligence. Okay, if a student can successfully order a meal at a restaurant and ask for the check, but cannot explain why they are allergic to a specific ingredient, are they novice high or intermediate low? Explain out loud. Did the notes help you? Your answer, they are novice high. Ordering food and asking for a check are survival skills that can be done with memorized phrases. Explaining an allergy requires creating with language and handling an unexpected complication, which is the hallmark of intermediate advanced. Next question. Which level would you assign to a student who can give a detailed 10-minute presentation on their favorite hobby but struggles to argue for or against a complex political policy? Pause the video and say your answer out loud. Answer. This student is likely advanced low. They can handle a paragraph explanation of a familiar topic. However, the inability to engage in formal debate or persuasion, superior level, keeps them in the advanced bracket. Next question. A student says, I went to the store, then I bought a bread, and after that I will go home. Are they showing signs of intermediate high ability? Why or why not? Pause the video and say your answer out loud. I hope you were thinking, yes, they're showing intermediate high signs. By using went is the past, bought is the past, and will go is the future. And they're demonstrating the ability to bridge multiple time frames in connected sentences. Now let's look at the unexpected problem scenario. You are at an airport and your luggage is lost. You are an advanced low speaker. How would you handle this differently than an intermediate high speaker? Pause the video, look at the notes, and answer out loud. The answer, the lost luggage. An intermediate high speaker can report the problem, but might struggle if the clerk asks a complicated question about insurance or technical descriptions. An advanced low speaker can handle the complication. They can argue their case, describe the unique contents of the bag, and navigate bureaucracy of the situation until it's resolved. Next question. If you have a student who can only use memorized phrases, novice, mid, what is one specific push or activity you could give them to help them reach novice high? Use the notes, pause the video, and say your answer out loud. Answer. The push for novice mid. Give them a split information task. Give student A a picture of a room and student B a different picture. They must ask each other questions to find 5 differences. This forces them to move from reciting to asking and answering to solve a goal. Next question. Evaluate the leap between novice and intermediate. Why do many language learners get stuck at the intermediate level for a long time before reaching advanced? Use the notes, pause the video. Answer. Learners get stuck because moving from novice to intermediate just requires memorization. Moving from intermediate to advanced requires immersion and thinking in the language. It's the difference between learning a list of 500 words and learning how to live a life in those words. Next, design a proficiency test for a job interview. Create 3 questions, one that a novice high could answer, one that requires intermediate high skills, and one that only an advanced low or higher could handle. Please use the notes, pause the video, and answer out loud. Answer: the job interview test. Novice High, the intro. Can you tell me your name and where you live and what you like to do for fun? That's the question. Now let's think about a question for the intermediate high. That's the experience. Question is: tell me about a typical day at your last job. What did you do when you first arrived and what were your plans? And what were your plans for the end of the weekend? Now, look at the advanced low, the conflict. Describe a time a customer was angry with you. How did you explain the situation to them? And how did you resolve the problem? Imagine a world where everyone only spoke at novice mid level. Write a short description of what a typical business meeting will look like in that society. I hope all that was clear. Moving on. 3 modes of communication. For the test, you need to understand this very clearly. Now that you have mastered the ACTFL proficiency levels, do you know how to actually use those skills in the classroom? Well, now we're breaking down 3 modes of communication. Every activity you plan, every lesson you design must fall into one of these 3 buckets. Let's decode them. The interpretive mode, which is the input, the information that's coming in. First up, interpretive. This is one-way input. It's all about comprehension. You are decoding meaning. The goal: you read, you listen, you understand. Here's classroom examples. Reading a short story, listening to a target language podcast, or watching a news clip and answering follow-up questions. You are not producing the language, you are absorbing it. Moving on to the second mode of communication is the interpersonal mode. This is where the exchange happens. This is two-way communication. It's dynamic, it's spontaneous, and it's messy, just like real life. The goal? A two-way negotiation of meaning. I don't know how to say that word. Here's some classroom examples. Chatting with a partner about your weekend, emailing a pen pal, or engaging in a class debate. You are adjusting your language on the fly based on other person's response. Last, the presentational mode. This is the output. This is how Spanish comes out. Finally, presentational. This is one way out. It's polished, it's prepared, and it's for an audience. The goal: producing a message for others to consume. Here's some classroom examples: giving a speech, designing an informative poster, or writing a persuasive essay. This is where you showcase your mastery of structure and clarity. Here is your first challenge over the 3 modes of communication. Interpretive, the input. First is interpretive. Think of this as taking in info. You are decoding a message. If you read a book or watch a show, you are interpretive mode. It's a passive comprehension. Why is reading an article considered one-way communication? Pause the video and say your thoughts out loud. Answer: reading an article. The article says what it says regardless of how you react to it. You interpret the article, but you cannot talk back to the article to change it. So that's why it's called one-way input. The interpersonal, the exchange. This is your ping pong mode. You can't predict what the other person will say. It's all about connection and negotiation and adopting your language in real time. In a class debate, why is your response considered interpersonal and not interpretive? Another question to think about: what happens to a conversation if you don't negotiate meaning when your partner is confused? Pause. Give me the answer out loud. I hope you came up with some answers. Moving on, presentation or the output. This is where you're prepared to show off what you know. You are creating a structured message for an audience. There's no back and forth, just your best, most polished work. Why does a poster require a different structure than a casual email to a pen pal? Pause the video and answer that, please. Okay, here's another question. If you had to teach a student in another country about your culture, which mode would be most effective and why? I hope you say your answer out loud. Okay, here's your exit ticket. Look at these three activities. 1. Taking a quiz about a text. 2. Texting a friend. 3. Recording a presentation. Can you label each one correctly? Pause. Give me the answer out loud. Remember, if you don't say it, you haven't mastered it. I hope you got them all right. Interpersonal is texting a friend because you're exchanging information. Recording a presentation of course is presentational. And lastly, taking a quiz about a text is how do you say that word? Interpretive. Moving on. Now we're looking at the roadmap of language learning, the ACTFL can-do statements. How do you know when you've moved from beginner to advanced? And why does culture matter more than just vocabulary? Let's break it down. The interpersonal can-do ladder. Communication isn't just about what you know, it's about what you can do. Here is what you need to know. Novice, you're sticking to memorized phrases. Think, hello, how are you? Intermediate, you are building bridges. You're having simple, spontaneous conversation. Spontaneous means that you don't think about it, it's just right there and then. And advanced, you're handling the unexpected, explaining complex ideas, or navigating a misunderstanding. If a student can order food but cannot ask why a dish is prepared that way, which level are they likely at and why? Look at the picture for notes. Hit the pause right now. If you're just reading it in your head, you're only halfway there. You have to vocalize to learn it. Speak it out loud or you won't retain it. Pause the video. Okay, as you can see in the picture, the intermediate, they can handle basic transaction. The goal, fulfill needs. But in the advanced, this is the explaining and inquiring level. Cannot discuss abstract. What? The advanced level. They can go into detail and talk about abstract concepts. I hope that helped. Let's talk about beyond language, intercultural skills. But language isn't just words, it's culture. We look at this through two lenses: investigate and interact. Side note, I do need to tell you, since we're talking about culture, that heritage speakers have good family backgrounds and they're the ones that know culture very, very well. So, the part about investigate, comparing products, like why one culture values street food while another values sit down dining. And the part about interacting, knowing how to behave, like understanding appropriate gestures or politeness levels in a conversation. Question: why might a language student speak perfectly but still experience a cultural misunderstanding? Pause the video and tell me out loud. Again, why might a student speak perfectly but still experience a cultural misunderstanding? Even if your grammar and vocabulary are flawless, you can still miss the mark because language is only half of the conversation. Every culture has rules they don't say out loud. For example, in some places it's polite to look at someone in the eye while talking. In others, that is considered rude or aggressive. If you speak the language perfectly but break these social rules, the other person might still feel uncomfortable. And the next question: choose a holiday from your own culture and one from another. How would you explain both to someone who knows neither? Here's an example: Thanksgiving, USA, and Lunar New Year in East Asia. Thanksgiving. Think of this as a day to hit the pause button. We stop working, travel home, and sit down for a massive meal with family. The main goal is to voice gratitude for things in our lives and to feel connected to the people who raised us. Now, on the other hand, Lunar New Year, think of this as a fresh start button. It's the time of the year when people clean their homes to sweep away bad luck and gather to welcome a new beginning. The main goal is to honor ancestors and share well wishes for health and success for the year ahead. So we've broken down the three modes: interpretive for input, interpersonal for ping pong exchange, and presentational for your polished output. We've also covered the ACTFL can do ladder and why culture isn't just a fun side note, it's the filter through which all communication happens. But here's the final takeaway for your exam. Don't just define these terms. When you see a scenario on the test, ask yourself, is this student struggling with input? That's interpretive. Are they failing to negotiate meaning? That's interpersonal. Or is this their structure or is their structure lacking? That's presentational. So, language pedagogy isn't about memorizing vocabulary. It's about diagnosing student struggle and selecting the right strategy. I want you to look at your study materials. You can find those in the description box. Find scenarios where a student is struggling to speak. Identify if it's a language issue or a cultural misunderstanding. You can post your diagnosis in the comments below and I'll let you know if you're on the right track. Again, stop making flashcards. Start applying the pedagogy. See you in the next lesson.